Dustin, it's good to see you. Today we are talking about 3 year-end tax strategies. There's only a few months left in the year, so now is the time to start planning. We are still firmly in bear market territory. Stocks and bonds are both sharply negative, and the market has lost nearly a quarter of its value since the beginning of the year. Ouch. So now let's talk about how those negatives do offer some unique opportunities. And first on your list of considerations is tax loss harvesting. What is that?
Sure. So if you're an investor with a non-qualified account, like a regular brokerage account, not an IRA or a 401k, this may be something you want to consider. If you've sold investments that have taxable gains this year, you might consider selling some investments that have losses. And when you realize those losses, they can offset some of those gains. And if you're in a position where you don't have any taxable gains this year, you still may want to consider realizing some losses, because in some cases those losses can be carried forward and offset future gains.
All right. Well, that is pretty straightforward.
I'd also add that this can be a complex strategy. It's not right for everyone. In particular, it's something you want to consider if you're a large investor and you've got a high tax burden, but it's not something that you want to pursue without getting your advisor and your CPA involved.
Right.
Because there are some important rules you need to follow and some really important considerations.
Okay. Next on your list, beware phantom income. Is that because Halloween is creeping up? Either way, it sounds very scary to me.
Yeah, no, this would pertain to mutual fund investors. Again, when we're in a taxable account, even though your mutual fund may be down, that mutual fund may still be holding some assets that have unrealized gains. And the way mutual funds distribute income is a little bit different than other investments. So anytime someone redeems those shares, in a year where, like this year, where we've got, significant drawdown on those accounts, anytime someone sells their shares of a mutual fund, that manager has to sell assets. And if those assets have unrealized gains, those gains are then distributed to all shareholders. So while you may not have sold your mutual fund shares, you could still realize gains. And that's kind of seems really unfair in a year when your values are down.
Right.
So one of the things you might want to consider is, does it make sense to exchange some of your mutual funds for exchange traded funds or ETFs? ETFs, they trade like stocks, and their tax treatment is different. So you don't typically realize any taxable gains in ETFs until you make the decision to sell. There may be some reasons in many cases to hold mutual funds, but just from a tax perspective, ETFs are certainly more tax efficient.
Okay. And last on your list, Roth conversions. I feel like I'm hearing a lot about those lately. Why are they popular?
Sure. Well, in particular, it has to do with where tax rates are. And I guess I'll give you this example. I used to question some of my wife's shopping habits, because every once in a while, she would bring home 20 sticks of deodorant or a dozen tubes of toothpaste. And when I questioned her, I learned two things. First, it's never wise to question your wife's shopping habits. Right. And the second thing I learned was the reason she was making those kind of purchases is those items were deeply discounted at the time. It made a lot of sense.
Right.
Well, you can make the argument that tax rates today are also deeply discounted. So back in 2018, when the most recent tax law was passed, various tax rates in the various brackets were reduced about 2 to 3%. But the picture is really bigger than that, because they also effectively doubled the standard deduction. And they gave us a situation where they increased the size of those brackets, meaning that you can make more money in each of those brackets, paying lower tax rates before you move into the brackets with the higher rates. So while tax rates, if you look at the tax rates in the various brackets, they were only reduced 2 to 3%. Here's the truth. On the same amount of income today versus 2017, you're probably paying, for most people, 20 to 50% less in taxes than you were just a few years ago.
Wow.
And here's something to be conscious of. While, new legislation could be passed any time to change those tax rates, Where we're tracking right now, those tax rates are set to sunset at the end of 2025. So January 1st, 2026, without intervention, we go back to those older, higher tax rates with lower standard deductions. And, apples to apples, we're probably talking about the amount of taxes you pay, all else being equal, going up 20 to 50%. So the reason that Roth conversions are so popular right now, not right for everyone, but the reason why people are really considering that right now is because you've got the opportunity to pay taxes at a known tax rate and convert a pre-tax account like an IRA or some portion of that account to a Roth IRA, where those proceeds, when withdrawn in the future, will be entirely tax-free, where we could be in a situation with taxes being substantially higher. So we start in that place. Hey, taxes are on sale, and I can do a conversion and pay taxes at known rates that are much lower than they used to be and much lower than they may be in the future. And then we layer on top of that, well, what's happened in the markets this year? Most people with a taxable retirement account, those values are down. Hey, what better time to consider paying taxes on my accounts when tax rates are on sale and I'm going to pay the taxes on a depressed value? It's one of the most reliable ways to recover some of those losses is to pay the taxes now at discounted rates and allow that asset to recover and be entirely tax-free.
Yeah. So what you're saying is your wife's just ahead of the game here. She was in on this strategy
Right.
before it was even cool.
Everything I discussed, I got the idea from her.
I love it. This is really helpful. Dustin, if somebody wants to discuss these strategies further with you, what's the best way to reach you?
They can text me a question at 830-476-2505, or they can visit us on the website, longlivemymoney.com.
Very easy. Dustin, thank you very much.
Thanks, Erin.